Okay, I think everyone that was in the lobby has joined. Some people will probably be coming in through the next few minutes, but we get this started and start moving. So, first of all, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world. We have a very global user base, so you are all welcome. And today we'll be covering some of the latest things that we've done in the last two releases of the software with 14.7 and 14.8, which is really all about the journey towards AI-driven investigations, right? And this is what we are aiming at setting a new standard for policing. Most of this webinar will be covered by Pamela and Hillary that are here with me. They'll introduce themselves in a little while, but we'll get started and walk you through what we've been doing. Just before we move forward, I introduce myself. I'm Jefferson Zanning. I am Chief Product Officer for Siren. So I've been with the company for many years, helping shape up the product strategy and focusing primarily like on our law enforcement and national security domains, but that though bringing also those capabilities into other domains in the commercial segment as well, in a vast number of different industries, but like mostly focused on our roots in law enforcement and national security. So if we look at Siren here for the webinar, we'll be walking through the introduction, very briefly touch point on a few bits about the company, and then I'll talk to you about the Siren AI aspects that we have been working on and what we are doing with it. And then I'll hand it over to Pamela to show some of the most notable features and things we've been building recently to drive all this vision behind the scenes, like the notification center and graph-driven investigations. And then Hillary will walk us through some of the law enforcement concepts and how this works in practice. She'll show a demo working in action, and also like some of her experience working with customers. And then to wrap it up, I'll just talk a little bit about entity resolution and some of the recent things we've done with it. And we'll jump into a Q&A to then hear from you what you want to know more, what we should cover, and solve any questions you might have about either what we talked here today or other aspects of the software you would like to know more. So 14.7, 14.8 is out. You can get it now, like it's available on our website. You can get in touch with us if you need help, and we can get you moving with it. But it's really all about the AI-driven journey. And this is what I will be talking during the introduction. What does that mean? Where do we want to get, right? Like, and how we are making this into a reality. Right. So it's about enabling law enforcement really to deal with a brave new world that is coming very fast at us from many different angles and learning how to use AI to our advantage, right? There's AI out there already, so you can be sure that criminals and nefarious organizations are already using it, and it's up to us to catch up to it and make sure we stay ahead of the curve and we can fight. Let's say fire with fire and use the technology they have been using for the wrong reasons to actually tackle it from the law enforcement and national security perspective, right? Now, in Siren, we are all about protecting people, assets, and networks, right? So it's really about bringing security to all aspects of our lives, right? Be it physical, digital, or human. Uh, we want to protect that. And that's has been our core goal from the beginning. Now, to achieve that, there's the people that we need to work with, right? Which is mostly investigators in a vast number of different domains, trying to look for information or look for data to protect these different aspects. And 92% of investigators, according to our research, have been frustrated, right, by how manual and time-consuming investigations can be. And that's a challenge like technology has evolved, but sometimes the processes are still behind and they don't always apply to all domains yet. And law enforcement has been a domain that took a while to catch up to the latest technology, but we are bringing this edge to these analysts to try to shift this number now, right? Like from the frustration shouldn't be with the solutions or with the methods that we have to employ to tackle law enforcement. Now, if you look deeper into some of the research we have done here, we've run a large poll like with government agencies specifically focus on law enforcement. And you see some of the challenges, like it's very difficult to find people with the correct skill set because it became so demanding on analysts to know multiple technologies, multiple software, understand how data works, all at the same time while also having domain expertise. So it's incredibly difficult to hire the correct professionals to do the work nowadays. And it became then a situation where it you have a shortage of staff to perform this work, which then makes it even harder for the people that are available. So you see that it's harder to recruit compared to 5 years, and that's because the market became more difficult, but the job became a lot more difficult nowadays. So with the increasing number of data sets and so on. Now, they struggle to use data to solve the crime because there's so much data. And that piles up, right? Like, so you increase this domain to more and more and more data coming in to try to make sense of this. And what you end up with is a data tsunami, right? So the reality is now you have data from social media, cyber intelligence, forensic extraction, dark web data, plus like a standard criminal data, and then you have criminal reports, witnesses, evidence, and you have to try to stitch this all together. And it can be quite complicated, and you have to rely on people being able to put these things uh, together through manual processes and tools or multiple tools often enough to make this into a reality. And it becomes very overwhelming very quickly. But what we've worked on is actually bringing these things together, right? So you can match data from multiple sources, be it like external data providers for cyber threats, dark web, social media, public records, and bring this all together to your data that you have already and make a single point of view that you can look at an investigation as a whole, right? And this is really important to have this unified perspective where we call it the world's largest investigative data set, right? And the reality is, chaining all these things is when you can get a full picture and lead to real meaningful outcomes during an investigation, right? Instead of looking for isolated clues. And this is what we've built. Siren is built to integrate all those things together and make it a seamless experience. Now, by doing that, we have some metrics that we have collected from different scenarios working with this, and we'll show some of these in practice where as Hillary walks us through the demo, you'll be able to see the difference very clearly. But we significantly reduce the time that it takes for an analyst to actually walk through this investigation. And this comes very naturally because on average, analysts would use about 7 different tools to do their jobs, right? So that means they had to learn 7 different softwares and know how to use them to be able to perform an investigation. So when you unify these into a single software, that becomes a lot more streamlined now to train people. And it's not that 7 software is 7 times more complicated. Seven different softwares can be 30 times more complicated now that you have to make the bridge between them yourself and figure out how to operationalize this. So in general, like we get 6 times faster analyst training to be able to be functional while you're using a unified solution inside SAR. But we also automate 80% of investigations, and I think Hillary will demonstrate that beautifully later. You see that once you have specific types of investigations you are targeting, that flow can be hugely automated. And you're no longer spending time on doing repetitive, laborious tasks, and you can actually focus on intelligence. And then on the other side of things, we also facilitated time to delivery of this solution, right? So because of our experience in dealing with those data sets and having a solution that is actually built for large data sets, we can make data integration a lot faster. And that's a key aspect to then bringing a solution to fruition and making it a reality inside an organization, a key point of it. Now, if we make a pause here, I would like to bring you all to have a brief look into the future, right, by using Siren AI. Nowadays, we perform investigations by using tools that then we can employ to aid us during the investigation. And we basically have to know which tools to use in each scenario, how to use them, and how to create an investigation, right? But thankfully, in part to our beautiful Canine Companion that you can see here on the right side, wiggling its tail, that is ready to help us. We are reshaping how this is done, right? And I have here an example script of what we think investigations should look like, right? And I'll walk you through here. And the goal is that an analyst can ask a question like, can you start a new investigation and find all details pertinent to an overdose incident and give it the number, right? And now the Siren Canine Companion will go through a multi-step investigation in an automated way, walking through with the analyst on what is being done every step of the way. So you see, we start by searching all the data related to the incident. And then we'll say I found one victim, two witnesses, and two previous incidents related to the victim. I created a link chart. Here's the link. You see everything has a link here because all these specific records actually link back to what was done by the AI. So the user can always see what did the AI search for, which filters did it apply, did he get the correct results? So you can inspect the work is being done. So the AI doesn't do anything that it could not be done manually by the analyst. What it is doing is simply automating those tabs, bringing that know-how of how to stitch this data together, and then walking the analyst through it, right? And then it will follow up on next steps as well. So I'll expand my search to similar incidents you see here, and it will say I found 6 overdose incidents that in the same area during the last 30 days, right? I'll now try to find patterns or similarities about them. And then forensic data collected from victims' devices show that 5 of the 6 victims communicated with a phone number that belongs to Zachariah Short, right? So he found that there is a common phone number being used, who this phone number belongs to according to our database. And then he searched for details of the individual that has been involved in previous drug trafficking offense and created a link chart included in the previous link chart here. The data so the analyst can see the whole network together, right? And Hillary will show a small glimpse of what we already have there in place, and we'll have a follow-up webinar where we'll cover the details of what this is all about, right? Why we are building this way, what it can do, and so on. But there's a quick summary here on the left. You can see like it's all about it being a Siren expert user, right? And understanding patterns and behaviors and helping the analyst do the work it's trying to do, but it's still being fully traceable and driven by a human. So it's doing the work for the human and not instead of it, right? So that's the goal here. And we'll discuss all the nitty-gritty and nuances in our follow-up webinar. But I wanted to give you a perspective of what it is. And just to prove that this focus work, I asked a simple question. If I was a law enforcement analyst and I was doing an overdose investigation, what should I do? And you see here, you have a very extensive list. In fact, they had 8 categories. I could only fit 5 in the screen here. But I highlighted in blue here the areas that actually do exactly what I've shown in the previous chat there. So it is well able to understand what needs to be done and walk through that and help the analysts automate some of the more laborious manual tasks they would otherwise have done manually. Okay, so I'll make a pause here and I'll hand it over to Pamela to walk us through some of the latest and greatest that we have been doing.
Thanks, Jefferson. So just to give a bit of background about myself, I'm on the product team. I'm typically responsible for documentation, UX writing, and e-learning. But from today I want to talk about some of the features from 14.7 and 14.8 that are powering productivity for the analysts. And that's both on an individual analyst level, but also on an enterprise level. So we have a new notification center for improved user interaction, better administration traceability. We have improved the graph user experience in a number of ways. So there's searching from the graph, there's improvements to the contextual highlighting, and this enables analysts to find what matters. So that's making patterns and anomalies stand out. And then under the hood, we've boosted performance. So that's enabling analysts to work smoothly with up to 4 times larger graphs, responsive pan zoom, and progressive layouts that stay fluid, and that's even at scale. And all of those improvements, they're really important to underpin a smoother experience when collaborating with the Siren AI on investigations. What else? So Siren now supports APM server. This is to capture back-end and front-end traces, errors, latency, so that you can monitor and tune performance in real time. And again, that visibility keeps Siren AI responsive and reliable with the insights and automations arriving smoothly when the analysts would need them. Also, Siren has a unique ability to dynamically consolidate entity resolution data now. So what that is at search time, it detects equivalent records and collapses them into a single entity with an entity visible, an entity count visible that you can expand out. So this reduces clutter without pre-merging. Um, because this consolidation happens on the fly and it respects existing access controls, this means that the entity resolution can operate sort of seamlessly, really, in environments that are highly segregated, so that the analysts, they can now receive a unified view, but only for the data they're permitted to see. I might show a little bit more on the notification center on the next slide. Yes, so the notification center, this is a key aspect to support the usability of those Siren AI capabilities. So it centralizes the system to user communication. So instead of the notifications before, we used to have them appear as a banner on the top and then disappear when they're closed. But now the notifications will appear as a small pop-ups with the notification center. Then you can access them again whenever. So this declutters the screen, but for a user experience point of view, that's a nice improvement. But what's also exciting here is that all these messages, these are now logged in the back end. So an admin monitoring this will know about any issues. So they can build a dashboard. So here we have a dashboard as well as an example. And you can have this data in real time with clear context and status. And you can set up alerts here as well to notify in real time actionable notifications that link directly to the relevant dashboard. I might show a little bit as well about the graph-driven search on the next slide. Yes, so the graph-driven search. So this makes investigations faster and clearer. So you can now search from within the graph itself. So I'm not talking about a find on the graph feature. This is a full search feature. Search the entire data set, external and internal data, and then add that directly to the graph. And this is all while preserving the investigation lineage, which is really important. So this is obviously a way better user experience to be able to access your tools quicker and easier. But it's more than that, really. Investigations can be very time sensitive, and so speed can be crucial. So thanks, Hilary. I won't delay you anymore. You can show us these in action.
All right, hi everyone. My name is Hilary Darche. I've been with Siren for about 4 years now. I've actually got a background in law enforcement, working as an analyst, intelligence analyst at the LA Fusion Center and the LA Sheriff's Department. I have a current role at Siren that's on the product and professional services team, assisting with implementations and user adoption at our largest customer. So I'll be running through a demo about the following items today. So as you know, Pam just mentioned, I'm going to do a demo on the new notification system and the search and graph. And then, Jefferson also mentioned a demo on Siren AI. I'm going to go ahead and touch briefly on that as well. And then I also have some real life slides that I have from the largest agency that we're working with, where we implemented a very highly requested and useful automated workflow. And lastly, I know this is a very last on the list on number 5 here, but I also wanted to speak about this largest agency that we just finished working with, this project. We're incredibly proud that we completed this project with this agency. We completely replaced their I2 which has been their legacy software for over 10 plus years. We're completely in production, and they've actually turned off I2 at the moment. One of the many things we've done for them is we've allowed users to make and save large graphs, for their investigations. And we also have enterprise concurrency usage for hundreds of users. We've spent a lot of effort making a very beautiful graph interface for them, allowing them to make customized yet automated visuals they can disseminate to their agency. Right, so these graphs are being used weekly in their ComStat meetings. And of course, we put a lot of effort into creating an intuitive and easy to use search interface as well that Pam kind of touched on and also demo. And that connects, a very large amounts of data. We've gotten great feedback so far, and everyone says that Siren is much more intuitive and user-friendly. So very, very happy with how things are going there. All right, I'm going to go now and jump into my demo. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay. All right, hope everyone can see. All right, the first thing I'm going to demo is the search, graph-driven search, right? So we already talked about we touched on, having a graph search earlier, but I want to, well, sorry, let me back up. People used to be able to start with the search app over here, but now that we have a graph search, we can start on the graph first. A lot of my users really like that they have the ability to search on the graph because, if they have a current investigation that you're really focused on in the middle of, you don't need to navigate away from the screen to add another record or another person to this screen. You can just, do it right over here. So I've been hovering over this search button over here, and this brings up the full feature search screen that Pamela was talking about. Now there's a whole demo on this, but I'm gonna a whole story on this, but I'm just gonna go ahead and just start typing this name that I have. And I'm gonna do a quick search. Now, as you can see, it has brought back a lot of results. This is the person I'm gonna be using. And I'm gonna click this conduct full investigation button. With this button, Siren is going to link everything that exists in the internal data to our target person, right? So what this next screen is asking is, what do you want to add to the graph? You can see that it's itemizing everything. So it's saying, okay, I have 3 persons to add, but if you click the drop down, it'll tell you exactly, right, which persons you're adding. I'm going to add 2 vehicles. Okay, which plates am I adding, right? So I'm going to go ahead and add these all to the graph. So I'm just going to go ahead and make a new one, add and open this graph, and we'll see what Siren is doing now. Okay, so this is very cool. So this is our target person, and everything that that screen was asking us to add to the graph, not only did it add it, but it also connected all the records, right? So now we can see that our main target guy has 2 cars. It's connected to all these different phones and phone messages, and also these other phone numbers that are connected to these other people. And this guy's also got a bunch of it looks like a complaints and stuff, or some sort of record. So yeah, Siren just connected everything for us. And that's the search and graph for all internal data. So now I'm going to do a OSINT search off of this data that I just found. So I already know that this message here has a Telegram handle that I'm interested in. It's the CNCXMX, whatever. I'm going to go ahead and right click this, and I'm going to do an OSINT search on this. All right, so now this is asking me, hey, what do you want to search, right? So I already know the phone number that's coming from. Siren already gave it to me. I'm going to go ahead and delete this. And I'm going to say, I want to search on this handle, right? Sorry, let me back up. We were searching on this handle because it had it's had some Fetty or some sort of thing on the post. And then we're also going to search the dark web. So I'm going to go ahead and click search. Okay, now it's giving us results. as you can see that a bunch of results came back from this handle search. It's listing fentanyl, raw powder, fentanyl again. So this handle is obviously connected to, illicit substances. So I'm going to go ahead and select this. And let's say I want to add this right to the graph. I'm going to submit results and add to the graph. Let's click standard again. And as you can see, this message that had on Telegram is now connected to this alias and is now connected to this dark web Telegram. I'm going to go ahead and open this. This is a nice overview pane. It's just showing me that this was found through Dark Owl. It was found through a Telegram post. And, as we saw earlier in that search pane, has something to do with fentanyl. So this is just giving me more information. All right. So just to recap what we've done here, Siren is really great at performing complicated operations and presents it in a very effortless way, right? So sometimes you even realize how much is going on behind the scenes. But on one search in the graph, Siren connected all internal data related to Roger Underwood, plotted it on the graph to visualize it, then using information from the graph that we found in the internal data, connected it to external data just by a couple of clicks and searches on the graph. Okay, now I'm going to move over to our notifications. So not too much to I can't show too much because I can't bring a bunch of error messages here. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to save this graph. And right over here, you're going to see a little pop-up, right? Info graph saved successfully. This is what Pam was mentioning this is our new notifications, these little pop-ups that show up here versus before they were right across this top part of Siren, this big banner, flashed usually pretty quickly and it ran away. But what we can also do now too is we have this nice little notification center, and it shows you everything that was, that I've, all the actions I've been taking, right? So graph was saved successfully. I also deleted some of these other, trial webinar graphs that I had. And it'll also show errors and warnings as well, but obviously I don't have any right now. But just wanted to show you this notification screen. This is great because it's logging everything that any user is running with the system, and they can act on it accordingly. These new notification menus are also great for the administrator. So I'm going to move over to an audit data space. I'm going to go ahead and save that. This is standard with all Siren implementations, but the new notifications system allows for a filter now to show a log of all the issues this entire system has run into. So I'm just going to expand this a little wider. As you can see, there's a lot of notification warnings, which IP it came from, who's running into it, and the description of the issue that person ran into. So, this gives a very holistic view of, all the notifications that the admin can look at and understand, okay, what are some of the system issues that we're running into, and probably action on them even sooner than before if they didn't have these logs. All right, I'm going to take a really quick tangent and point out another feature of Siren called data spaces. And I know you saw me just click this and click something in here. Data spaces are great because it allows for different users to see different data sets and conduct different investigations, right? So one example is one of the use cases we've had is, let's say if you're on a homicide team, right? Homicide is pretty, you guys work with very, secret data. So let's say if you will have a homicide team that's allowed to see cases flagged with only homicide or let's say sealed records, they could have their own data space here that other teams cannot see with exclusivity to data. And another way you can use data spaces is, let's say different teams have different dashboards, right? So for example, a vehicle identification team at a real-time crime center, right? So they'll see the same data everyone else can, but let's say they want to have a specialized dashboard right, that are specific to their use cases, such as like, let's say, vehicle photos or vehicle data visualizations and stuff. So yeah, if they want to have their own data space, they're allowed, they can set that up with specific like dashboards as well. So in summation, like data spaces allow for an entire agency to share data, yet have cordoned off special rights and spaces for their specific investigations. Yet they can still, share and coexist in the same Siren universe. Okay, I'm going to go back to our graph. Let's go back. And this is where I'm going to talk about AI. I'm going to do a quick little demo on AI. All right, before I do that, I'm going to select all, and then I'm just going to add just a lot more data on here just so it's more relevant so we can see what we've got. All right, so added a ton more data here just to make it for more complex for demo purposes. So right down here, what Jefferson was discussing is our Canine Companion. This is our Siren AI. It's brand new. It's really cool. It's a interactive AI tool now that users can interact with. You can ask the Canine Companion to extrapolate, meaningful data from the graph, or you can even ask it to do things, right? Like format the graph and much more. I'm not going to, do a ton of demo on this today because there is a new webinar coming up. That's going to be very exciting, as Jefferson mentioned, and I'd hope you guys, go ahead and join that in a couple months. But I'm going to go ahead and chat with it just to show you really briefly what it can do. So I'm going to tell this graph, hey, I want you to highlight all records in red that mention illegal substances, right? So we already know that there's some evidence of illegal substances in here. Where's that mention illegal substances? Okay, so I'm telling K9 to do my bidding. So I'm going to send that in. So now K9 is going in and looking at everything on the graph and trying to find records that mention illegal substances and then highlighting them in red. Okay, great. We're already getting results. So I'm going to go ahead and look at some of these. Let's click this. All right, my best stuff, meet at my place in the same hour. Need another hitman. Okay, so this is really cool, right? Because not only is it understanding the fact of like what is an illegal substance, it's also understanding the context of legal substances, right? It's understanding that, hey, a hit is like slang basically for legal substances. Then we've also got this one, hey, got that FETI. So, here it's finding the actual right context of legal substances. So yeah, it's like it's great. It's really cool that that it's seeing it's able to go in the graph, find everything dealing with illegal substances, and then highlighting in red to just bring it to your attention. Just really increasing the speed of your work. And then lastly, another piece of AI is being able to generate reports. So I'm going to go ahead and click Roger Underwood. Here's on my target guy. I'm going to create a report here. And now what I've asked the Siren AI to do is give me a summary of this entire graph, right? Like what's on here. I don't want to have to dig into each one of these things. And here you go. It's telling me, right, the primary node is Roger Underwood. It's giving me a summary of the entire graph of, what data sources were used, key metrics, like how many nodes there are, a detailed analysis, right? So it's telling me like who this guy is. He's, what are some of the interesting things? He's tied to 28 cases. He's tied to this phone number. He has these emails, right? It's summarizing everything in a very easy to read fashion. And then also obviously conclusions. Looks like he has ownership of multiple vehicles connected to law enforcement data. So, interesting. Just note that he's got like some interesting vehicles that we can probably take a look at. And yeah, so this is just a really nice summary. I can also now download the report and, send it to disseminate to someone else. Okay, and I think I'm going to hand it back to Jefferson now. Thanks.
Thanks, Hillary. Really cool to see some of this stuff in action. Hopefully, you could all see how quickly you can go from searching for a record to getting to a fully built investigation. And that's what it is all about, right? Like bringing that information as quickly as possible. Just to explain here, like how the entity resolution centerpiece kind of works, right? We have many disparate data sources or nefarious agencies that try to spread their data in slightly different ways to mask or create some form of deception when data is being combined, right? So you can see here like Bob Jones, Bob Smith, Robert Smith, Bob R. Smith, etc. It's all the same person in this case, but like the records can be quite scattered, right? And they are unified by certain characteristics, and the entity resolution system is very good at doing that, like at saying who is likely to be the same record and etc. But then it becomes a challenge because when you're dealing with search, right, like you need to have data to be searched, but you need to search across all of these to then find the matches, and if you resolve them, they will all be combined. So that means that all these records are now part of a single segment. But in law enforcement and in national security and other scenarios, sometimes different groups in the organization have access to different data. And in certain law enforcement agencies, that becomes very evident when you have a criminal division and an intelligence division where data cannot be mixed for legal reasons. And one group might have access to more data than the other. Then it becomes a real challenge to deal with resolved data. But what we've done is actually the ability to search only for the data the user has access to and then merge it on the fly. So you see these groupings here on the top. So you can have one user in the intelligence department that will have access to all those four records, and they will see a completely merged version of these four records. They will still be able to see which four records compose it to drive the investigation, while a criminal investigation division might have access to only those three records on the right side here, right? And this is done automatically, completely seamlessly, and it's still searchable. You can search across the whole database, get the correct data based on the user profile, and have that presented in the most effective way. That allows you to work with very complex security protocols, especially in intelligence, where you have different classification levels, and these need to be respected. And to disambiguate data, you can still apply entity resolution, something that would be very difficult to do before with entity resolution in large data sets. What was done in the past is that if you had different groupings, you need to have completely different entity resolution databases per se, where data is resolved differently based on different access levels, and then it was locked in that standard. But now you can have the whole database be resolved, and then Siren will dynamically merge respecting security for you. So this is quite novel, and it makes the usage of this type of data a lot more fluid. And we're very excited to share that with everyone and have this important part of investigations be actually a much better reality in large and complex organizations that do rely on security for very important reasons, right? So this is some of the stuff we have rolled out in some of our latest releases. And if you want to understand better how this works as well, reach out to us and we'll organize the demo and walk you through and cover all of that. All right, this is all we wanted to share. And now we'll jump into some of the questions. Let me open the questions here. Thanks everyone that's shared your questions with us. It's very, very good to walk through them here. And if you haven't sent a question yet, feel free to pop them in the panel while we are reading the current ones here, and then we'll get to it. Okay, so we have here a question saying, is the ER then limited to each channel? So the entity resolution doesn't have a limitation per se. Like I was mentioning, it can actually be grouped dynamically, right? So it's actually really, really interesting the way this grouping can be done because it's role-based security or attribute-based security, so you can use both standards. And if the one of the things that happened a lot, like so, where this need originally came from, is an intelligence team and a criminal team inside law enforcement, right? An intelligence team, we usually have access to the criminal data, but they will have specific intelligence data collection. Now, intelligence data collection cannot be used for criminal prosecution normally. So the criminal division is very important that they don't have access to that data because otherwise it could contaminate the investigation and invalidate it, right? But by having the data now being automatically segregated, the intelligence team can still get a full picture of all the records. But the criminal team, now, when they look at the data, they'll only see data that was collected within the criminal framework. So that means that their investigations are still good to go from a legal standpoint, while the intelligence team has a full picture. So it's the best of both worlds, right? Like, and that can only happen if the resolved data is merged at the endpoint, and that's what we've done in a secured way, bring this data together. So there isn't really a limitation on the channels. You can create as many groups as you want. But traditionally, you would have had separate data entity resolution databases for each different channel, which would have been prohibitively expensive, right? Okay, so next question here. The whole graph is resolved, but visibility to the resolved entity is filtered by channel. Yes, exactly. So everything is resolved, but then the actual output is filtered based on the specific group, role, organization, or whatever level of security we want to apply. Okay. A number of people said good afternoon or good evening. So good afternoon and good evening to you too. And then I have another question here saying, Siren subscription available for private investigation firms. I'm interested in absolutely reach out to us. Like we have a number of different levels. Siren solution is designed to be deployed on most environments on-prem or cloud. So you can pick and choose what method you want, but like absolutely, we work with a number of different domains. So feel free to being one of our team, and we'll get back to you on that, seeing what is the most appropriate. The OSINT aspect is pretty cool. We haven't covered a lot. Like Hillary showed, like the integration to some of the external data sets, but OSINT data, we actually have some very, very cool demos. Like if you're interested in that, definitely ask for an OSINT demonstration where we collect data in large volumes from a number of different domains, and you can see what are the topics that are bubbling up in different communities and how they are tied together in certain networks and so on. So really, really interesting stuff. Like I even use that a lot myself. Like now seem such a long time ago, but like during COVID, I used some of our OSINT data collection to actually see how sentiment about COVID was towards different topics in different countries and areas of the world and so on. And it was fascinating really to see that. And some other questions here. What are the safeguards in place with AI? This is something I'll go into a lot more details in the next webinar we are planning, but just to be very clear, the goal with Siren is to do it quite differently from some of the other AI, even though the interaction is similar. For example, if you have used Gemini GPT or some of these other large language models, when you ask for data, sometimes it will use external tools. So, for example, you might search on the web for a website, and then you might even bring the result to you and say, I found this on this website. However, it doesn't tell you what is searched to get to that. And this is what we are changing the way it works in Siren, right? So every step done by the AI can be manually done or redone by an investigator. And when the AI executes it, it shows you not just the result, but what it did to get to that result, so that you can see not just what he got as an output, but how he got to that result. So a clear example is in the scenario I was showing early, it looks for similar incidents in the area in the last 30 days. But you can go there and say, no, 30 days is not the correct time frame. Usually criminals operate in a range of 90 days in these areas. So I want to change to 90 days. And you can then update that and get the updated follow-up from this, right? It's creating that interaction so that human is fully in control of what's going on, right? Now I have another question here. Does Siren get all the information on the internet about a particular person, or is it limited to social media and dark web? Well, like we have a number of data providers, right? Like we connect to. So I don't think there is a way to get everything it exists um, on the internet per se, but like what we do is bring data from data providers that we work with, which we have like over 200 different data providers that focus on specific aspects that would be more common for criminal investigations, right? Like so. There's like cybersecurity data sets, there is dark web data sets, there's social media data sets, there's like open data, corporate information. There is a vast number of data sets, and that's what we stitch all together to collect this information. And then another question, can you create new records manually in linked charts? Yes, we didn't cover this today. Like there's so much in Siren that it's impossible to always walk through everything. But yes, absolutely. So some of our customers actually have specific areas that the whole link chart might be completely manually built. So it doesn't come from a specific record in the database. They might get information from a confidential informant, for example, that is not logged in the official database, and they build a graph from that. So there's definitely that type of workflow. Do you have PI clients in Canada currently using Siren? I'll have to double check on that. I'm not sure of all our accounts. I'm pretty sure we have like some engagements in Canada, but like if you want to reach out to us or leave your details, I can get someone to follow up, and then we can give you more details of what we are doing in Canada at the moment. In fact, Jerry Barron, or global head of sales, has been in Canada attending some of our events only a few weeks ago. So, what do I need in order to search about a person? So there's two types of data you can search. You can either search internal data sets, right? Like, and we will bring all sorts of internal data sets of anything you have internally, or you need access to data providers, and we can help you get access to these data providers, right? Like we connect them to Siren automatically. So depending on what domain you are looking for, we can suggest some data providers, and then to try to identify a person, it can be a little bit like Hillary shown. It can be an alias, a Telegram account, a phone number, maybe an address or a name. There's many ways to search for a person. Some are narrow down the result set better than others, but it usually will give you the best trail possible based on the information you have at hand to start, right? So there's a number of ways to do that. Normally, in law enforcement, we would do both, which is a little bit what Hillary is showing. Like we search internal data and external data to tie it all together, and then make a single perspective of it. And then Another question here. Is there a maximum amount of data that Siren can work with? Uh, we never hit a cap yet. Our largest account has almost 400 nodes. A node for us is like a very powerful server. So our largest account has almost 400 nodes. And I would say this is sufficient to run petabytes of data, right? So you can run very, very, very large data sets. And one of the reasons is because we distribute the load in a cluster so that it can scale both vertically and horizontally. So you can really be as broad as you would like with data. So, okay, that's all the questions I had here. If you said hello, hi, good day, good evening. It was great to have you all over. If you have any follow-up questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Our team is at your disposal. I'll leave here on the screen our contact details. So feel free to reach out to us. Like as I was saying, like Jerry Barron was just in Canada a few weeks ago, but you can reach out to Sean as well, or Michal, Greg, Hillary, all their contacts here. Feel free to take a screenshot if you want. Like this will also be in the recording that we'll make available later. The contact details, you can easily get it from our website as well. And we are happy to look after any other information you want to know or arrange a specific demo. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. It has been an absolute pleasure. Thanks, Pamela. Thanks, Hillary, for walking us through all of that. And I'll see you soon.